So right now I'm not the strongest I've been and I'm not the biggest I've been. I'm training for a kind of all-round performance, training for flexibility, mobility, strength, speed, endurance, all those things all at once. However, there was a time when I was more interested in just building size, and I know that quite a few of you guys watching this are probably also interested in building size, especially those hard gainers and people who just want to bulk up and fill out their clothes. So I thought in this video I'd talk about how to train for size in particular, and some of the mistakes that people make when they're trying to pack on muscle. So a lot of the advice when it comes to bulking is to use the compound lifts. So that means your squats, it means your deadlifts, and it means your bench press. And the theory goes that training with these exercises uses more muscles all at once, builds more strength, and as such triggers a greater cascade of testosterone, growth hormone, and other metabolites and hormones that lead to anabolism, growth. It's like taking steroids without having to take steroids. However, this information, although it's not incorrect, isn't actually particularly good advice when it comes to building muscle. And the reason for this is that whilst doing deadlifts and bench press, etc., will trigger a massive spike in growth hormone and testosterone, it's very short-lived. It's not going to stick around in your blood for a long period of time in order to encourage more anabolism. It's actually just going to disappear very shortly after and not impact on your muscle building subsequently. Having sex, watching action films, being competitive, these things also spike testosterone, but you're not going to notice that you become bulkier just by doing them. It's the same thing with compound lifts. I'm not saying that compound lifts aren't useful, but if you're doing them for a hormone spike because you think it's going to boost your muscle building, that's actually been shown to be incorrect. And anyways, if it's just about using more muscles, then surely you don't need to do compound lifts in particular. Surely it would be just as effective to do a full body routine. I would say you should keep your compound lifts as a big part of your training because they do force you to use a lot of strength, and building strength will build muscle. When you build strength, you cause micro tears, they come back thicker, and that thickness makes the muscles harder and fuller. So lifting heavy weights is advisable. At the same time, building big strong legs and building that yoke, these are things that are going to make you look overall bigger. However, don't rely on them and don't assume that compound lifts are far more effective than higher rep ranges, isolation movements. Because actually, if you look at any bodybuilder, and these are the people who are really big, aren't they? If you look at any bodybuilder, they use a lot of isolation exercises. They use high rep ranges. They build up the metabolic stress in the muscles, and that's what leads to subsequent growth. So a lot of people will say, we can't train like a bodybuilder. They all take steroids, and that's why they get their results. And yes, taking steroids, of course, causes them to get greater results from the same training. However, you can still benefit from the same training methods, it's just that you won't get quite the same extreme results. This is still the optimum method for packing on size and muscle, otherwise they wouldn't do it. And that's why I do recommend a kind of power building regime if you're looking to bulk and if you're looking to pack on muscle. Start with the big heavy compound lifts and then move on to the isolation work. And do focus on those higher rep ranges, 20, 30, etc., to really pump the muscles. You want to feel the pump. Basically, by combining heavy compound moves and higher reps on the isolation moves, ideally with some slow eccentrics, we can maximize the three main stimuli for hypertrophy: muscle damage, metabolic stress, and mechanical tension. And don't forget to do some spot work on those in-between muscles too. Taking the time to do some shrugs or focusing more on your triceps to counterbalance your biceps will go a long way to making you look much more massive. In terms of the structure and ordering of your exercises, you should of course put the compound moves at the start and then the isolation movements at the end. Reason being A, because of course you need more strength to do the compound movements. You can't do them fatigued, that'll increase your risk of injury. But B, because whilst I'm saying you won't get a huge spike in growth hormone, etc., there is some evidence to suggest that spiking your growth hormone and your testosterone with a compound movement and then immediately after doing an isolation movement might mean that you get better benefits from that isolation movement because of your elevated hormone levels. The study I looked at, I'm not 100% convinced by. There were methodological problems. However, it certainly can't hurt to give it a go. So volume and frequency are also really important, and there are plenty of studies now that demonstrate that training each body part more than once a week is going to be really good for building size and strength. So if you can, then something like a PPL routine would be really good. So that means push-pull legs, push-pull legs. Alternatively, you could do push-pull legs and then a whole body day, In other words, you're just trying to make sure you hit those muscles twice and doing lots of exercises for each one during your training. Essentially, the more you can curl and the more you can press and the more you can squat without burning out, the more growth you're going to see. And this is something else that's really important, burning out, because a lot of people who want to add mass and size, they will try and exercise as much as possible. They've always wanted this, they're desperate to see results quickly, they want to put in 100% effort, and so they go to the gym every single day and they're there for hours. This is actually a mistake, because if you want to build muscle and build size, you need to spend more time being anabolic and less time being catabolic. So your body has two states, anabolism and catabolism, which essentially equate to your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system, or fight and flight and rest and digest. You're either amped up, focused, working hard, and that's when you're burning fat for energy, or you're relaxed, you're calm, you're recuperating, and this is when you're building muscle and restoring tissue and healing wounds. We need to spend as much time as possible in that anabolic state. The thing to recognize is that your body doesn't register a difference between physiological and psychological stress. Anabolism and catabolism are simply different terms for rest and digest and fight or flight. So if you're constantly stressed with work, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're constantly spiking your blood sugar, or if you're generally an anxious person, you'll be increasing your heart rate, producing cortisol and adrenaline, and burning fat rather than building muscle. The reason we get butterflies when we're stressed is that our digestive system has been suppressed. The reason we get ill is because chronic stress suppresses our immune system as well. Training itself is a big physiological stressor, so if you want to grow instead of just constantly breaking yourself down, you need to pay that debt with rest and recuperation. Work hard, rest hard. Don't underestimate the role of psychology in bulking, and consider altering your lifestyle in order to facilitate the kind of gains you're interested in. At the very least, consider finding ways to better manage stress, like meditation and CBT. You might also notice that a lot of the things that are great for energy and burning fat are therefore not so useful for bulking. So you want to focus on being as relaxed as possible if you want to get as big as possible. And this is what I mean by living like a lion. And when you eat, you need to eat big as well. Countless studies show that 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight is roughly the target you should be aiming for with your protein. But to be honest, in my experience, you can't have too much. So add 2 protein shakes into your current routine, and that'll help you to build more strength. Taking casein protein before you go to sleep is another good way to prevent your blood sugar from dropping, putting you into a catabolic state, because it releases the protein more slowly into your body, therefore making sure you have a constant supply of amino acids to keep on building muscle when you've got that nice spike in testosterone and growth hormone. You also want to eat lots of carbs though, and whilst I've talked on this channel about the benefits of going lower carb or using intermittent fasting, when it comes to just bulking and building size, you want to keep those carbs coming in. Reason being, first of all, low carbs means low testosterone. There's many studies to show that if you go too low carb. At the same time, you want to keep your energy levels high, because low energy levels is once again a stressor. Your body reacts to that by increasing cortisol and myostatin, which breaks down muscle tissue. You want to maintain as much as possible in a calorie surplus. Being in a caloric and nutrient surplus activates a protein called mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin. This in turn is what triggers protein synthesis, increasing the production of IGF-1 and other chemical signals. BCAAs, whether natural or supplemented, even tiny amounts of leucine, can be enough to trigger mTOR, so keep snacks and supplements to hand. Of course, saturated fats are also really important for building muscle and bulking up. Saturated fats contain cholesterol. Cholesterol is what your body makes your sex hormones from. Testosterone is a sex hormone. So eating more saturated fats can raise your testosterone levels and thus help you to build more muscle. Milk is a particularly great source, full fat milk in particular. In fact, some people use the GOMAD diet, a gallon of milk a day, and they say that drinking that much milk can cause a sudden huge surge in muscle building and testosterone. I don't recommend that one because it's a bit too much fat. You can have too much of a good thing. It's not overall very healthy. Something else that you can try taking in terms of supplements is creatine. Creatine increases your energy levels by helping your body to recycle and reuse ATP, adenosine triphosphate. What creatine also does is it encourages intracellular retention of water, so your muscles will hold on to more water and that will make them look slightly swollen. And you could expect to see up to 1 inch growth in your biceps. There are such things as creatine non-responders, so you might not see this, and the extent to which you see growth might vary. And of course, that water retention isn't going to make you any stronger. However, if it's just size you want, then trying to take creatine as well certainly can't hurt. It might be an easy way to gain some size overnight almost. And whilst you're trying to get lots of protein, whilst you're trying to get lots of carbs, I also recommend that you eat a nutritious diet, because all sorts of nutrients in our diets help us to build bigger muscle. Things like vitamin C prevent the breakdown of muscle tissue. Things like calcium will make your tendons stronger, making you stronger in the gym, meaning that you can lift more, meaning that you grow more. Don't make the mistake of following the IFYIM diet if it fits in your macros. Yeah, I completely did that acronym wrong. Don't make that mistake of just eating any kind of junk because you're getting enough calories, because yeah, you will, but you'll be weaker, and it's not good for you in the long term and in the short term. Eating a nutritious diet, getting all of the carbs and all of the protein from a nutritious diet, that's much better for you. So you think of lions as being ferocious predators, of running after their prey, tracking them down, always being on the go, being kings of the jungle. But in reality, lions actually spend a lot of their time just lounging around, and particularly the male lions. There's a good reason for this, because they're conserving energy. It doesn't actually make any sense for lions to be constantly on the go. If they lounge around, they can survive longer on less food, and it means that they build more fast-twitch muscle fiber, so that when they do see an antelope sprint across the savannah, they can give chase much more effectively. They know when to strike. They go either all out or they're resting. And if you want to bulk and gain size, that's how you need to be. You need to be either all out or not moving at all, waiting, eating, and sleeping. Hope you found the video useful and interesting, guys. If you did, then please leave a like, please share it around, comment down below and let me know if you have any tips for gaining size and mass. I've got lots more like this on the way, as always. I'm going to be looking at how to train your abs to become visible even at 10% plus body fat. Going to be looking at single leg training, jump height training, night wing training, body weight training. If that all sounds cool, then stick around, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.